Good evening, Namaskar, and a very happy new year to all of you. Today, on behalf of Mr. Brahm Prakash Gaurji, Hemaji, and the entire team of Tuesday Gathering, I extend my warmest welcome to our guest speaker of the day, Major General Rajesh Kundra. He is our very own and known personality in the forum. So, after welcoming General Kundra, I would just request you all to, before start the evening, just join me in thanking Guru Tattva or Supreme Father to offer our prayers. Atma Tvam Girijamati Sehachara Prana Shariram Griham Pujate Vishayopabhog Rachana Nidra Samadhi Sthiti Sanchara Patayo Pradakshina Vidhi Stotradi Sarvagiro Yadyat Karma Karomi Tattadakilam Shambho Tavaradhanam Karcharan Kritam Pakayajam Karmajam Va Shravanayanajam Vamanasam Vaparadham Vihitam Va Sarvamedakshamasva Jaya Jaya Karunabhe Shri Mahadeva Shambho Jaya Jaya Karunabhe Shri Mahadeva Shambho. Our guest speaker of the evening doesn't need any introduction because he had with us as a guest speaker for 2 evenings and we had listened to him. So today is the day when instead of introducing him, I would like to congratulate him on behalf of all of us. And the reason is known only to Hemaji. So I would request Hemaji to please disclose the reason to all of us.
Major General Rajesh Kundra, Sena Medal, Sevanivrit.
Thank you. Thank you.
So this was the reason.
Rashmi ji, your net is
received Param Vishisht Seva Medal for his distinguished services to the nation. It is sorry.
Can you repeat again because thoda sa net ki problem ho gayi thi? Yes, thank you.
Major General Rajesh Kundra received Param Vishisht Seva Medal from the President of India on 22nd November 2021 for his distinguished services to the nation. It is indeed a moment of pride for all of us, including Major General Kundra. So after this, I would request Major General Kundra to please disclose all of us about the secret of tackling disease, because what I know about the disease is any disturbance in is called disease. But what is the correlation between disease, its physical and beyond physical level, that I would like you to disclose us. So evening is yours now, and I would request you to please take the evening ahead. You are welcome, Major General Kundra.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Firstly, a very happy new year to all of you. And what a way to start a new year. I think I wouldn't have been more fortunate. And thanks to this forum, thanks to Gaurji, Hemaji, and all the people of this particular forum for having given me this opportunity. Because what I'm going to be talking on is exactly the way thoughts are. And you are the people who have given this positivity at the very beginning or the onset of the year. I'm sure we're going to go great guns as we go along. Before we come down to the topic per se, let's do a short little invocation. I'll request everyone to please close your eyes, concentrate between your eyebrows, and gradually within your mind, chant the mantra Om. Slowly and gradually, keep chanting the mantra Om. As you go deeper and deeper, gradually and slowly, move your concentration from between the eyebrows to the left, along the periphery of the brain. Very slowly, as you move, feel the sensation moving along the periphery of the brain, along your thoughts. Gradually and slowly, keep moving until you come right behind the brain, opposite to the Ajna Chakra. As you reach there, stop your thoughts. Feel the sensation below that point in the brain. That's the place where medulla oblongata is there. This is the place which is responsible for drawing in the pranic energy. Feel that energy flowing from your crown chakra within your brain and gradually dissipating into various parts of the body. Gradually and slowly, move your thought along the periphery to right and move along the brain gradually and slowly, feeling the sensation as you move. Return to the point between the eyebrows and chant the mantra Om. Feel the sensation all along your brain. You would feel certain amount of current running along the brain. the left hemisphere, the right hemisphere. Om. Thank you, Lord. Thank you for your divine guidance, divine protection, divine love, divine intelligence, divine prosperity, divine willpower, and divine power. Thank you, Lord. Thank you for everything. Yeah. Gradually open your eyes. Well, this was the way to get your both the brains working in synchronization. And boom. And when both the brains work in synchronization, the understanding becomes allowed and beyond a normal thinking. Coming to the topic per se, how to lead a disease-free life. If I were to say that disease is an illusion, how many people will agree with me? Yeah, please raise hands who agree with me. That's an illusion. Great. Not very many hands, and that's what is expected, because that's true. The disease which everyone feels all around you, how can that be an illusion? And that is what we're here to talk today, whether to see whether this disease is an illusion or it's a fiction or a fact. If I were to work out that disease is an illusion, let's understand what does illusion mean. Because I say disease is an illusion, I'm not real. So what does illusion mean? A dictionary meaning of illusion means illusion is an instance of a wrong or misinterpreted perception of sensory experience. Or in other words, illusion is distortion of senses, which can reveal how the human brain normally organizes and interprets sensory simulation. Let's understand this with a little example. There's a little party which happens in the house in the lunchtime, and we had a great hearty meal, a lot of sweets and other things we have had. And had a full, after that one retires to the room, and all of a sudden one gets a call from friends that they're coming in the evening. You can't say no. Your body's saying no, you already had enough food and you can't entertain anyone and you can't take anything in. But you have no choice and you say, okay, my friends are coming, I've got to look after them. And you say, fair enough, we meet up in the evening. And the friends drop in. And as they drop in, not only the food and snacks come in, the drinks also start flowing. Your body's saying no, we had enough of it, but you say, no, my friends are there. We're going to be doing that. We have to go along with it. And you have 1, 2, and that gradually momentum keeps building up and goes on and on. And not only that, you cross limits of drinks, you even cross a time. You're feeling sleepy, yet you carry on drinking and carry on along with it. As you move along, late night, and you depart, the friends depart and come back and sleep. Next in the morning, you get up groggy and you rush towards the office. And when you reach the office, the boss calls you, ushers in and says, look, I gave you a little job. What about the job which happened? And you say, oh, I've done it. This is what it is. In slipshod manner, you put it across to him. The boss gets annoyed and he hands you over a counseling letter and says, you haven't done a good job. You are stressed. You are sad. What really has happened? When you had a party in the morning and you had a heart full of meal, your body gave you indication to look, you have had enough. Your friends came in and you say, okay, I'll entertain them. Your body said, no, you can't have drinks, you can't have food. You have had enough of it. But you distorted the sensory inputs which are coming to you. Say, no, no, that's okay. My friends are there. They don't come every day and they come today, so I've got to be enjoying with them. Fair enough. You went in for a drink or two, but you carried on. Your body told, no, it's not good enough. You're not able to handle it. It's not doing well, but yet you carried on. You distorted the inputs, sensory inputs which are coming to you. Not only that, you're feeling sleepy, but you carried on late night, distorting again the inputs your body was giving down not to do it. Next day in the morning, you got up, you went to the office, your boss wasn't happy, you got stressed out. Your body again started getting signals. What really happened? When the signals come into your body, do not accept it. When you distort the signals, the body gets confused and starts functioning in different manner. Like when it already had enough of food, it had simulated insulin to balance out the sugar level, which was very high in that thing. And yet you went ahead, had drinks, went on late night. The drinks in late night, what happens? That becomes resistant to the insulin. And the insulin which is produced by the body does not remain effective. And the sugar level goes up. When you went to the office, your boss was stressed out. And when your boss counseled you, became stressed out. And because of stress, the cortisons were released in your body. The cortisons, when released, they become resistant to insulin and they increase the sugar level. And not only the sugar level goes up, you also put on weight along with that particular thing. So what has happened? You have been distorting the sensory inputs which have been coming to you regularly. And this distortion created a disease. There was no disease. So that's what I'm coming down. There are no diseases which happen. Diseases happen because of distortion of inputs we go down. We'll understand this in a little lengthier manner. And that's what I'm doing, is that I'm trying to bring in scientific interpretation along with spiritual understanding. Because my understanding is that the spiritual which is there, science is not only compatible with spirituality, it is a profound source of spirituality. So to understand spirituality, we should always and every time try and understand the science behind it. Because spirituality is also science. Science and religion go hand in hand. Results of scientific investigations are definitive and connected with reason, whereas religion is often dogmatic. So sticking to just dogmatic thought process may not bring in a full understanding till the time we don't have scientific interpretation. And this is what we'll be doing as we go along. As I did my research on this particular aspect and found out that all across the world, the diseases which are happening, the chronic condition diseases which are there, the highest is the high blood pressure. Around 59% of the people across the world who are suffering have high blood pressure. Alzheimer's, approximately around 42%. Depression, approximately around 30%. Heart diseases, around 42%. Diabetes, approximately around 25 to 30% of the people. Your lung infected diseases which are there, the pulmonary diseases, around 22%. Cancer, around 22%. Your strokes, around 18%. So these are the diseases. When I carried out analysis around 100 years back, these diseases were very minimal. But in past 100 years, they have surmounted all across. Why? And this is what we'll understand why these diseases are coming through. The disease which happens, it doesn't happen in one day. Like I just gave you an example of this diabetes, which is there. Now, this individual, when he started, it could be leading a life like this, the way I just gave you an example. It could be a few days, it could be weeks, it could be months. And then when the body stops, or rather not being able to produce enough insulin, that the body starts showing symptoms. And when symptoms are shown, that's the time we say, oh, this guy has got diabetes, the diseases are coming. So there is a whole process which actually happens, which we are not able to fathom. Today's science is able to find a disease when the symptoms start showing. That's the reason today's science is known as symptomatology. Whereas what we not to know, or rather what we need to know, is the etiology. That is why it is happening. Today's science tells us what has happened, but it doesn't tell us why it happens. And this is etiology, which we'll be talking about, that why a thing is happening to us as we go along. To understand etiology, we got to understand the chronic disease and the reason behind. I'll not dwell much on it because we're all aware of these particular chronic diseases. How and the way they happen is because of stress, sleep disorders, physical inactivity, diet, infection, environmental toxins, sunlight, gut health, and various other things. And when I did a detailed study on this particular thing, I came down into a nutshell of 3 things which are responsible for diseases to happen within us, the chronic diseases. First is the thought, second is the food, and third is the lifestyle. Thought, food, and lifestyle. We'll discuss all 3 individually. Let's take the thoughts first. To understand the thought, let's understand the functioning of the body, how the body functions. The body is made up of cells. Cell is like a battery. It's got a positive side outside and a negative side inside. and each cell has got 1.4 volt electricity or energy within it. We have 50 trillion cells in a body, which makes to 700 trillion volts of electricity. This is the charisma of God. No body or nothing in the world can take off so much of electricity the way a human body carries it all along. We don't even know that we are moving with so much of electricity within us. 700 trillion volts of electricity a human body carries along with us. The diseases in the body are caused because of two things. First is the defective DNA. And second is because of the bad signal. Defective DNA, we all understand. The DNAs which are there, which comes through the generation as we go along. We pick it up from our parents and biologically it comes to us. So the defective thing, and the research all across the world shows that only 5% of diseases are caused because of defective DNA. And if you look at it from the spirituality, this defective DNA is nothing but a karmas which we carry forward from a past life, what is there. It is just 5% of the diseases. 95% of diseases happen because of the bad signal. Now, what is this bad signal? The bad signal is the thought. The thought which is there is the bad signal. Now, how does this thought influence the body? A body has got DNA, like I told you. DNA has got digital information. It has got information which never gets wiped off. It remains always and every time. The cells pick up this information from the respective DNA and act accordingly. And when cells get the information from the DNA and they act rightly, your body remains healthy and functional. There is something known as epigenome. Epigenome is an analogous information. This information is there. Epigenome is responsible for guiding the cell to go to which genes. It tells the cell that this cell, you need to go to gene number A and pick up information and start acting. And this epigenome, which is there, is got analogous information. Now, the information contained in this epigenome is the one, it's something like a CD. We have seen the CD earlier. So CD go, when we used to keep it, we keep it outside, sometimes get dusted, sometimes it gets scratched. CD works when it was new, was working very well, but after scratching and other things, what happens is the CD gets distorted. The sound doesn't come fully. Sometimes it jumps in between. That's exactly what happens to epigenome. Epigenome, because of thoughts, because of the food and the lifestyle, also gets scratched. And when it gets scratched, it is not able to pass the correct information down to the cell to go to which genes and start acting. And when the epigenome gets distorted in its information, that results into diseases which happen. 95% of the cancer in the world has been detected to non-functioning or because of the epigenome not being working right. So, switch to control the body is the perception or the mind or the thought. And perception is directly related to epigenome. If you look for disease, you will create disease. If you think right, it will happen right. And this is what is known as placebo effect. This is a very common terminology all across the world in the scientific community called as placebo effect. Placebo effect is nothing but a positive thought process, positive thinking. There have been numerous instances where doctors have treated patients with just giving sugar pills and say, oh, ye dawai khao, theek ho jaoge. And people have improved and got right. It is nothing but placebo effect. There's something known as nocebo effect. Nocebo effect is the negative people. The people having the rightful medicine, and because of the negative thought process, that medicine has not worked on them, and they've even, passed away on that account. There's one drug which is known as Prozac in the world, a very sought-after drug which is there. And this drug, this is from the scientific community telling that it is nothing better than a sugar pill. And it has been treating people all across the world just based on placebo effect. 1/3 of the medical healing across the world, including surgery, happens because of placebo effect, the rightful positive thinking. I'll give you my example. This is of 1994. I was in Sopot, and that's the time we went into operations. And during operations, I suffered a bullet wound. And the bullet went through my foot. It went through and through, and all my bones were shattered in between. And I was immediately evacuated down to Srinagar, and I came there. And Srinagar was that time a small hospital. I'm talking 94. And because of that counterinsurgency operations happening, there were so many people who actually suffered bullet wounds, some had shell wounds or something happening, that outside the theater, operation theater, there were 2 operation theater, and just outside, people were lying in. We were all lying on the bed, they're giving us anesthesia and just holding on. Tomorrow chance aega, tab tumhara operation hoga, abhi chal raha hai ek ka. And one of the others, doctors are moving. They had a chain of doctors who, one will come, they'll finish the operation, second will come, they'll finish the operation, again the first will come. And they would carry on doing that. And when I was operated upon, all the doctors did was, there's a point from where the bullet went in, and there was a point from where the bullet came out. They just closed the entry and exit point, and they left it off. I was given antibiotic injections, that's it. And within 11 days, I went walking on my own back to my house and back to my unit again. I was there fighting the thing. Not only me, when I was lying on the bed waiting for my operation thing, there was a guy right in front, a BSF Jawan. He had a shell which went through, literally below his heart, through and through. And there was something, it will not happen. He will not survive. And that guy, in a matter of 25 days or 30 days from the hospital, went back walking and absolutely fine. Why? Because in the hospital, there was placebo effect. Here is a live example that we were treated absolutely on placebo effect. There was nothing which was done to us. It was all in the hospital. It was neat and clean. There were mantras going around. People would come, appreciate us, be happy. Someone selling flowers. So there was a great environment, and everyone felt great about the whole thing. And that exactly treated us so well. So the placebo effect, or the positive thought, is what keeps the epigenome working right. And as long as the epigenome keeps working right, there'll be no diseases. And not only diseases, even you growing old will be stopped. Haven't you seen Rishi Munis in the old times, 100 years, and they would still look so young and bright? Even certain young people whom we keep listening on, apne Gurujis and all we see, they're so bright and shiny. And you check, oh, there's someone is 80 years, someone is 90 years, someone is so-and-so, but yet they look absolutely like 40, 50 years old. Why? It is all because the epigenomes are working very well. Let's understand this through the Vedic understanding. This was through the scientific understanding. Let's understand this from the Vedic interpretation. Now, when I did a little research on the Vedic science, I was surprised, pleasantly surprised, that even our document scriptures or religious scriptures also talked exactly what a science is talking today. They also say that the body is always in motion. It's in vibration. The complete body and everything in the world is vibration. So body is also vibrating. And within body, there are cells. And within cells, there are molecules, atoms, protons, electrons. They're all vibrating. And below that is the pranas, the pranic energy. Now, I would like to draw back what I just told you a little back about the scientific interpretation, what they've done. Every cell has 1.4 volt of battery, or current which is there, or energy which is there. And 700 million volts of current is there in the body. Which is this current? Every cell having that current. This is the pranic energy which is there. Every cell contains that energy which keeps a thing. This energy is not only energy, this energy is an intelligent energy. When we say manu mein kosha, man, it's not in the buddhi, or not in the man, not in the mind. It actually spreads all across the body. Every cell has got manu mein kosha. Every cell has this pranic energy which has memory, which has intelligence, what to do. And that's a precise reason when a child is born in the womb of a mother, the cells are multiplying only. Which cell will become the heart? Which cell will become the blood? Which cell will become the bones? No one knows. It is a pranic energy which is flowing, which keeps telling the cells how it will work. So thus all cells have got an intelligence of their own, and they function on the pranic energy. And if this energy is distorted and slowed down, obviously the things will not happen. So now it explains what I just spoke of, epigenomes and the genes and the cells. It is actually the epigenome is also formed of cells. So it is this pranic energy which is working on it. If this pranic energy is restricted, the flow of this energy is restricted, obviously the cells will not be able to function well. And cells will not be able to function well, the epigenome will function well. And epigenome will not be able to pass it down to the cells. And even if the cells go and get the right information, if the pranic energy is low, the cell will not know what to do, how to produce the gastric juices, how to take on the thing. And that's how the diseases happen. So the pranas are the ultimate thing which is within the body, which actually works. There are two types of pranas. One is a universal pranas which are there all across in the cosmos, and one is specific prana. When this prana enters the human body through medulla oblongata, it comes within you. That's the time it becomes specific prana. Because from medulla oblongata, this particular pranic energy is distributed all throughout the bodies through the chakras. And when it goes into various parts, it gets into 5 different forms of pranic energy. And that is known as pranas, vyana, sumana, udana, and apana. Pranas are the ones which are responsible for crystallization, running of the heart, sensory and motor nerves, inhalation, when you're breathing in. That is what actually pranas are responsible for. And vyana is meant or responsible for the circulation of the body. Samana, assimilation. Whatever you do, what you assimilate is the samana pranas. And udana is meant for metabolism, your bones, muscles, nerves, organs. This is what actually the udana is responsible for. And apana is for elimination and exhalation of the breath which comes. So these are the ways it functions. So if you see, the Vedic science is absolutely in correlation with what the present science is. So in fact, the present science is all picking up from this Vedic science and gradually moving up. So this energy which is flowing, the pranic energy which is coming and getting into specific pranas, these energies also work through the thought, the perception which is there. And it comes through medulla oblongata. So if they're positive, the positive flow happens. If they're negative, it restricts the flow of the energy within your body. Without the life energy, the medicines which we are taking actually cannot have the healing effect. The healing effect is there because of the pranic energy which is flowing within us. After having understood the energy which is there, the scientific as well as the Vedic understanding, let's understand the functioning of the mind, because everything is now coming down to the mind. So let's understand how the mind functions. I told you that as for Vedic interpretation, this body, it's got cells, it's got molecules, atoms, electron, protons, then comes pranas. And below the prana comes is the conscience and the ego. Or in other words, if you were to put between the conscience and the ego comes your thoughts, feelings, sensations, your willpower. So what are thoughts? Thoughts are nothing. They are the words, are sounds occasioned by vibration of thoughts. And thoughts are vibrations sent forth by ego or soul. So what I'm talking to you, these are the words. These are nothing but the sounds occasioned by the vibrations of my thought. And my thoughts are vibrations which are coming either from the soul or from ego, from where it comes. So that is how it comes down, the thought brings it. So when it picks it up from the ego, it may not be very positive. But when it picks up from the soul, it'll be positive. So that's exactly what it is. So when your thoughts are positive and negative, when we talk of, it is from where they're picking up the vibrations, either from the soul or they're picking up from the ego, which comes in. Words which are saturated with sincerity, conviction, faith, intuitions are like high explosive bombs. And that is what is the placebo effect when I come down to. When I just spoke of it, that is what actually forms the placebo effect. The mind actually now, if we see and break it up, it gets broken up into 4 parts. One is manas, ahankara, buddhi, and chitta. Manas is like a silo of information, memory. Like I told you, it is manomaya kosha. All across the body, that information is stored up. Whatever we do, we see when the child grows up, whatever he sees his parents and others doing everything, that all getting stored into the body. It gets stored into manas. So when any input coming, it immediately first computes with stored up information and throws out the answer to it. Second comes ahankara. Ahankara, actually, we always say ego, but the better would be to say identity. It's an identity. It's I, it's you, it's we, like this type of thing. That's an identity which is there. Buddhi. Now, buddhi is an intellect. It's like a knife. It dissects, it finds out, discriminates, finds the right and the wrong between the thing. And this buddhi works from the source of the soul. How much this buddhi is enlightened is dependent on how much you're connected to your soul. And for this chitta, this is boundless. This is unsullied by the memory. The first 3 dimensions, that is the manas, ahankara, and buddhi, are the one we keep you within the cycle of the life. If you touch Chitta, you breach this cycle and go beyond. Samsara is what these three things, that is Manas, Ahankara and Buddhi, keeps us in samsara. If you have to breach samsara, you have to touch Chitta. The moment you touch Chitta, you actually get across to the universal consciousness. And then you understand what exactly is the way God functions or the things are there. Let's understand this, how the mind functions now. Like, let's go back to the first instance which I gave you of the diabetes case, which is there. Already had food, friends came in, the information went in. The information first goes down to the Manas. The Manas has got stored information, and that stored information says, you just had a very hearty meal, and it throws up you had a hearty meal. Last night also you had a great late night. So that's the information comes in, and it goes to Ahankara. Ahankara says, you have had, don't worry, they're friends. I got to show myself in better esteem. How can I say no to them? And Ahankara says, hold on. And that information is put on to think. The Buddhi is the one which is the intellect, which is the rightful thing, tells you right and wrong. And Buddhi says, no, don't do it. Don't do this. This will harm your body. You've got to stop this. But Ahankara, because your Ahankara had a higher vibration than the Buddhi, so Ahankara takes the lead. And Ahankara says, oh no, I got to look after my friends and I must go ahead with the thing. And how? That is the way the output comes out of the thought process which comes in. So anything which happens, it actually first gets down into the Manas. It computes with the stored up information and gives the input down to Ahankara and Buddhi. Now, between Ahankara and Buddhi, which has got more pronounced vibrations, the output of those is what actually becomes your thought and ultimately action, what it comes down. So, what matters is that the thought which is there, we need to work on this, and we must work on having thought, having more of positive energy, that is your soul energy, being on a high vibration onto this. Swami Yukteswar Giri has said that wisdom is the greatest cleanser. If your buddhi works right, that is the biggest cleanser of your body, not only of the thoughts, even of your physical body which comes in. After having seen how the mind functions, let's now get back to see how the thought changes. How can we change the thoughts? The thoughts are there. How do we change the thoughts? I'll quote an example which is there. There is one person driving down. He had bought a new car. He took it out of the showroom and he's driving and very happy about that he's been able to get a car after so much of saving and all. And he wants to take it home and show it to his people around. Oh, great, I'm coming with a car. And as he's driving off, he has not done his insurance because it's a new car. It'll take a little time. There's a truck coming from the other side in a very high speed, and he rams his car and skids along with the thing. And this guy fuming, his, all that money which is put in a new car, and he gets out and he finds a large scratch on the side of the body, and he's fuming and he's sad about it. So what happened? There was an event. He was taking a new car. The truck slided off. And what is the emotional state? Emotional state, he was sad and fuming and angry about it. There's another person, same instance. He's also got a new car. He's driving off. And as he's driving off, he's also hit by the truck. He looks out and his emotional state is different. He's thinking something different. He's a little more positive on the thing what has happened. He says, thank God I got saved. We could have all got killed. And he says he's of gratitude. The other person is fuming and angry. The other person is full of gratitude. Oh, we got saved. Thank God. Aapne itne se bacha diya. Why? Event is the same. Emotional states are different. Why? It is because we are not affected by the event. Our emotional state is not because of the event. Our emotional state is because of the meaning what we give to the event. In the first instance, what meaning he gave? Oh, it was a new car and my car has got damaged. I have not got insurance and where will I get the money? And I want to show to my people the new car. And he was fuming and he becomes sad and angry about it. The other person, he gave a different meaning to the event. He says, oh, thank God we got saved. If this truck had come a little 2 inches on the left, probably we would have not been there. He starts thanking the God, gratitude to you. And he says, koi baat nahi, scratch hai, this will only cost another 10-20,000. I'll get my insurance and have it done. There's no problems in it. It is a meaning what you give it down is what actually dictates the emotional state of your mind. And that is exactly what the thought is. And how do you change this perception? Because what is perception? Perception is nothing but gathering or receiving inputs. Perception has got passive receipt of signals and is shaped by the learning, memory, expectations, identity, and all those particular things. So how do you change perception? To change perception, you have to vibrate higher. Your body is vibrating, like I told you, the complete body is always vibrating. You pick up thoughts, vibrations, either from the soul or from the ego, which you're picking up. So your body is always vibrating. So what level you want to vibrate? A normal person is vibrating at a problem that anything coming, he finds it a problem. Oh, this problem, I can't do it. I'm stuck. I can't move ahead. If you vibrate a little higher, you start seeing this as an obstacle. And when you start seeing it as an obstacle, you say, oh, I can climb over, I can go around it, I can go under it. Means I can find solutions to this particular problem which is coming. The people who are vibrating higher, they start looking at the same thing as an opportunity. Oh, great, I've got this opportunity. Let me do this. Let me show it to the other people that I can do it. Or let me create a new nuances for this particular thing. And the people who are very illumined, who vibrate at a very high level, they always find any and everything as a gift to them. Same thing happening, same perception, changes from person to person. Why? It is the way you vibrate. It's the way you create vibrations within yourself, which comes in. So how do we raise our vibrations? Vibration raising is also known as serendipity. Serendipity is when you start vibrating higher, automatically things start happening right. Everything starts becoming good. And that is what we need to go. So how do we start vibrating higher? If we see scientifically, the body keeps vibrating always. Your heart beats at 60 to 70 beats per minute. You breathe at 14 to 16 per minute. Your carine chiral pulses happens at 18 to 12%. Gastrointestinal tract also keeps beating around, contradiction, the contracts and things, stomach contraction, brain waves, body temperature keeps changing. So all these things, keep vibration. And all these small frequencies together make up a consolidated frequency, which differs from person to person. What I'm getting at is that every time there's a frequency within you, but this changes from person A to B to C to D, because every person has a different frequency which comes. The frequencies, if you have the positive frequencies coming to your mind, the positive thoughts, it increases the frequency level of things. A normal human being body vibrates at a frequency of 7.5 hertz. That is what a normal person frequency of a body is there. If we chant mantras, for example, we have a havan at our place. What happens because of the mantras, the intonation, others, the frequency level goes up. And the frequencies are higher, and that actually gets absorbed by you. When you chant mantra Om, its frequency is 136.1 hertz. That's a high level of positive frequency which it generates. So when you meet someone, you feel good. Why? It is because your frequency and his frequency match. There's a connect of a wavelength. And that's how you say it. We are on the same wicket and we are on the same page. Every human being who vibrates higher, there is no reason for any infection to come into his body. There's no reason for him to contract any diseases. I'll quote you one example. Like today, we all are obsessed with the word COVID. Now, COVID virus vibrates between 5.5 hertz to 25.5 hertz. So that means if it enters your body, it will immediately give you disease. But if your body frequency is higher than 25.5 hertz and you're vibrating higher, this virus will enter and die down immediately. It can't sustain in that frequency. And that is the reason it explains that when a group of people meet guys with viral infection of COVID, some have contacted, some have not contacted. Reason is this. And when you say ki my immune system is high, what is immune system? It's the vibrating level of your body. So if you vibrate higher, you remain disease-free. And the reasons for low vibrations are the fear, phobia, suspicion, anxiety, anger, rage, hate. When you are in pain, you are vibrating at 0.1 to 2 hertz only. When you're in fear, you're vibrating at 0.2 to 2 hertz. And when you have the superiority complex and all, you're vibrating at 1.9 hertz. And when you vibrate higher, how? generosity. When you show generosity, you vibrate at 95 hertz. When you show compassion for others, you vibrate at 150 hertz. When unconditional universal love, it's 205 hertz. When you pray, when you sit for prayers, you actually vibrate at 120 to 350 hertz. And when you meditate, it's 350 and beyond, depending on what level of your meditation is. So that's a level. So if you're vibrating at a higher level like that, there is no reason for any disease to come into you. It will not sustain itself in your body, and it will all die down. These are all, I'm giving you facts and figures of scientific interpretations which have been done. These things have been there in Power versus Force by David R. Hawkins. And this guy is nothing but a great follower of Vedic sciences. And you've got to understand, he's picked up all from here and he's putting up a book. And today I'm quoting him. So that's the greatness of our scriptures which is there. Gayatri Mantra. You'll be surprised when you chant Gayatri Mantra, whether you understand it or not, you must chant Gayatri Mantra. That's the reason the mantras have their own. Gayatri Mantra goes as 20 kilohertz. 20 kilohertz is actually 110,000 hertz. That's the frequency which it goes up. And that's a precise reason that when this step of mantras are chanted, you feel good. There's something great environment which happens in your house or place where it is happening. So how do we change our thoughts? We change our thoughts by three things. First is information. What type of information we give it to it. Second is a belief system. And third is a good company. If you have these three things, you will change your thoughts. Information, what is coming? Like, let's see our forum, which is here. The forum, we all come in and join here. The information, what we all get, it's so positive. It only increases our vibration. By the time we depart from here, we are all vibrating far beyond our basic frequency. If our basic frequency is around 7 to 10 hertz, we all finish when we leave this place, we are vibrating at 30, 40 hertz or 50 hertz, depending on what level we are. Because of the information what is given down out here. And as this information keeps piling us, one session after the other session, what is happening? A belief system is getting into it. And belief system becomes what? It's like a consolidation. In a manas, where I told you, the information gets stored. So whenever inputs are coming, information says, yes, I already have this. You got to vibrate here. You do this. This is the right thing to do. That's the information which manas throws back. And that is what nothing but a belief system. So your belief system becomes positive and grown up. So you start vibrating at a very high frequency. And third is a good company. When you sit around here, you only talk of rightful things. You only talk of positivity. You only praise each other. You're always full of gratitude for what person A does for B or B does for C. You're full of gratitude for God having given you opportunity to come into this particular forum. And if all information, your belief system and good company does it, that's exactly what changes the thought. And when the thought changes, you move from the perception of problem to obstacle, obstacle to opportunity, opportunity to gift. That's how it comes down to. If you have to classify diseases, they actually can be broken up into three heads. First is your bodily disease. Second is your psychological disease. And third is your spiritual disease. Now, what are all these things? Let's take the body disease. The bodily disease are nothing because of toxic conditions which are there. Infection like virus, which is floating around, COVID and all. Accidents happen. So all these are nothing but bodily disease. The second is psychological disease. These happen due to fear, anger, failure, lack of initiative, confidence, lack of confidence. And third is the spiritual disease. This happens because of ignorance, intellectual pride, dogmatism, skepticism, contentment with material methods, and life leading a theoretical metaphysics. When I say theoretical metaphysics, is exactly what I'm bringing out here. When we're in this forum, we all feel very full of gratitude. And now we are vibrating at a very high level because our information coming is right, our belief system is improving, and third, the company, what we are sitting out brings in now. But the moment we get across, we have this tendency to get back into own self. And what is own self? The moment you meet another person, you say, oh, yaar, wo, usne ek galat kaam kiya, that guy isn't good. Usko aise nahi karna chahiye tha. What are you doing? You start gossiping about others. The moment you start gossiping, what happens? Your body produces cortisols. And when the body produces cortisols, it brings in stress. And when it brings in stress, it reduces your immune system. It reduces your immune system, your white blood cells can't function fully right. And your white blood cells can't function fully right. The germs which are there within or outside, you immediately catch it on. And that is what I call as metaphysics or theoretical metaphysics. We have understood it, taken it, but the moment we move out, we are back to a square. Now, this is exactly what it is, the reason of spiritual disease. As long as we remain in theoretical metaphysics, we will not be able to catch on, understand the thing rightfully. We got to absorb this, not here. We got to absorb this when we interact outside. When we interact outside, your information, maybe whatever, you have to change that information based on yourself. Your belief system should be so strong that no matter what is coming from outside, you should be able to change that belief system. No matter what be the company, you create a great company. Once you start doing this, then you can say, yes, I'm spiritually not diseased. And as long as you remain in theoretical metaphysics, you are diseased. And as long as you're physically diseased, you're psychologically diseased. Because your physical, theoretical metaphysics, when you're cribbing that guy is the guy who did it, मेरे को मिल रहा था promotion, उसने साला पीछे गड़बड़ कर दिया, ये हो गया, वो हो गया. What is it? It's bringing down fear, anger, failure, lack of initiative. And all these things are doing nocebo effect within you. Not a placebo effect, a nocebo effect. Your thoughts are getting negative. And when your thoughts are getting negative, your epigenome is not working right. And information goes haywire. It doesn't know what to do, how to do. And when your metaphysics isn't right, you're psychologically weak. When you have this physical disease, like accidents and other things or infection you've got, even your recovery becomes slow because your internal system is not strong enough to fight that particular thing. So what it comes down to is that very important is the thought process. It's not only us that we're talking. There's a Japanese study which has been done. They've also come down to a conclusion. And I will just give out the broad conclusion what the Japanese research says. They say acidity is caused by diet error and stress. If you have a diet error and stress, you are bound to get acidity. Hypertension is managing emotions. Carry out analysis after what I tell you, carry out analysis in and around you and see whether that's right. The people who got hypertension, you'll find them, they're not able to manage emotion. There's so many multiple emotions coming, they're not able to handle it right. You know, cholesterol, excessive laziness, asthma, sad feeling. The people who have asthma, they are generally always negative, sad, ye kharab ho gaya, wo kharab ho gaya, maine aise kiya, usne aise kar diya, usne ye galat kar diya. But every time talking of negativity and negativity. Diabetes, selfish and stubborn attitude. Kidney stone, pent-up emotion and hatred. Spondylitis, much of worries, too much of worries causes spondylitis. Let me quote my example, personal thing of stone. You know, recently I was detected around 6 months back. I was detected with the stone in my in my gallbladder. And when it happened, I said, let me find out what the reason is. And when I read this particular thing, I said, this is because of thing. And when I did my complete analysis, it was really right. Because in past 2 years before I retired, I had a very difficult time with my boss. My boss was there in Pune, I was there in Mumbai, and thereafter to Nagpur. And we were not on the same page. There were things which were, I was not in agreement and I was not doing it. So we had this very stressful relationship for 2 years between him and me. You know, he wanted me to do something and I said, no, my conscience-in-law, I'm not going to do this particular thing. And that carried on. And that brought in not only, you know, pent-up emotions, it also brought in hatred. I started hating him. And I said, you know, in my heart, this guy is negative, always doing this. And that is what actually I now realize resulted into pent-up emotion, which came down into my kidney stone or stone in my gallbladder. And I said, no, I must not start looking into positive side of it. And this gallbladder stone would get stuck because it was getting stuck at the duct and it caused severe pain. And thrice I was admitted in the hospital because of severe pain, very critical pain. And everyone in the house said, you forget about your metaphysics, what you're doing, you get treated now and all, get it operated and thing. I said, no, let me do. I prolonged it for 2 months. I kept doing it. And in my MRI report, it showed multiple stones in my gallbladder. And there were 2 stones which were big enough. You know, there was 7.3 millimeters, there was one 3.5, and other small, and there were multiple. The whole gallbladder was full of stones. And not one, two MRI, and both confirmed the similar thing. So when I got admitted one day, it was very critical. That time I was actually breathing in pain and I was admitted in the hospital. So my wife came and said, nothing doing, you're getting admitted and you're getting operated and I'm not going to take this. And that time also I relented. I said, okay, let me get operated. Let me get over this. I got operated, got my gallbladder stone cleared off. And when the doctor brought in, after my operation, got the gallbladder and the stone, I was surprised my gallbladder had one stone of 1 millimeter thickness. What I was doing was right. But, that is where it comes down to faith. At times, it dwindles when the people pressure comes into it. And why this stone happened was all because of my own thought process, pent-up emotions, hatred for the guy. And that's what exactly. And when I realized this, when I read this and I started realizing, I, in my meditation, would say, I forgive you and you also forgive me. I've got nothing to take against you. Whatever's happened, we were doing in right earnest. You are a great guy. You are a good man. And this is time and again, I kept doing it in my meditation, apart from doing my pranic healing. And it worked. So what I'm getting at is, this is one live example which I'm to quote. It works. All you have to have is faith, the correct information, the right belief system, and the third is the right company which is there. Apart from this, also from the scientific point of view, when you do rightful things, gratitude, love for universal love for others and all, what really happens scientifically? It actually releases hormones. And I'll give you hormones which are the ones which are good hormones. You must work towards always and every time that these hormones should be secreted within you. If these hormones remain secreted, you will always be in placebo effect, always be positive. One is endorphin. This actually happens when you play, laugh, have fun. 30 minutes of exercise can actually throw in so much of endorphin within you. Watch funny stuff to get days happiness. That's what actually throws in endorphin. Second is dopamine. Appreciate others. You being appreciated by others, that also throws in dopamine. And this forum, why we feel good about coming to this forum is because endorphin is by play, but dopamine is the one which usually comes. We're always appreciating others. We say, oh, aapka bahut bahut shukrana, aapka shukrana, aapka shukrana is what? It's nothing that we are throwing dopamine within ourselves and in others' body into it. Serotonin. This comes by sharing. When you start sharing, give it back to society and nature. We say, God sahab, aap bada acha kar rahe, aapne forum shuru kiya. This is nothing. The moment we do this, serotonin is being secreted within me as well as within him because he receives it. What we're doing, we're giving it back to society. I said, aap kuch kar rahe, main bhi aapke sath jata hu karne ke liye. And you're doing nothing. You're actually doing favor to your own self by throwing serotonin within yourself. And next, the fourth one is oxytocin. Oxytocin is the one which actually, remember that Munna Bhai MBBS, where he says, Jadoo ki jhappi? Absolutely. It works when you do a jhappi from within. It throws in whole amount of oxytocin. When lady gives birth to a child, she is full of oxytocin. Oxytocin is the one which actually draws the milk into her bosom. And that's how she's able to feed the child. And that is what actually is there. When you hug a guy, oxytocin, that type of love, which actually nothing can surmount love of a mother for a child, that actually gets secreted within you. So always and every time work towards these 4 hormones to be secreted within you. If you have these 4 hormones, your thought process will change. Your perception will go high. You will start vibrating at a very high frequency. And when you start vibrating at a high frequency, there's no reason for any disease to enter your body, any disease to be there. And you will realize that all diseases are nothing but an illusion, all created by you, all done by your own thought processes, which are there. After having seen the thought, oh my, I think I've taken too much of time. I'll go a little faster. After having seen the thought, let's come to the food. Because food, this is also a very important aspect to it, particular thing. The Vedas says there is a nature, the rules of nature to have food. And what are these rules? The first rule is all beings who eat food eat only after they experience hunger. Only after. Animals go around, they don't keep eating. They only eat when they're hungry. It's only we who every time keep picking them, throwing into your mouth. Second rule of nature says, God has provided to all species food in its natural, unaltered state. That's the reason the animals and all others, they don't cook their food. They just go eat it up. Similarly, it is also provided to us by nature. But as we are brought up, as we grow and do, the things have got changed understanding. But this understanding should come back into us that we must eat food which is provided to us in natural and unaltered state. The third rule is God gives senses to every sentient being which tells him what to eat and what not to eat. And last is you can feed the human body, not meant for it, the food which is not meant for it, only after you have fooled the senses. Right? So the 4 rules are there. First is eat when you're hungry. Second is the God has provided the food in the natural form. So eat the food which is provided in the natural form to you. And third is that your senses tell you what to eat, what not to eat. And the fourth is the human body meant the senses which are there, you can only feed provided you fool the senses, then you can feed anything to the human body. That's what the fourth thing comes in. Now let me say the forum which is there, I invite you to my house. And say come and stay with me for a day or two, and you all come there, and there's a dinner laid out, and you all come to the dinner table, and on the dinner table, there are fresh fruits, there are fresh vegetables, there is grains, there are nuts, there is a live chicken, there is a fish on the plate jumping, and we say, okay, let's sit down and eat. You wonder what is this, but that's a food. So what do you eat? The first thing which will come is, let's pick up fruits. Let's pick up vegetables. That's what you will immediately have and say, oh yeah, I'm done with it. I'm happy with the thing. And you retire. Next day in the morning, you come back for the breakfast. The vegetables are out, the fruits are out. The nuts are there, the grains are there. There's a chicken, there's a fish. What do you have? You say, okay, I can have nuts. Maybe a little extent, I can have grains also, which are there. You retire, come back for lunch. There's only fish and chicken live there. What do you have? Can you have that? No, not really. Because your senses is not allowing you. All you had the food was the one which your senses were allowing. You can have chicken, you can have fish, you can have anything, provided it is put into masalas and various other things. Your senses are fooled. The senses doesn't know what is this. There's some new dish come up, okay, khalo, nikal jata hai. And that's exactly what happens. And this is what causes all the problem. Why this causes all the problem? Let's understand the physiology of a human being. When you eat something, what comes into play? First is your senses, which tell you what is right, we just spoke of. Second thing comes is your denture. And third thing comes is your digestive system. Now, all these 3 things, if we analyze, all carnivorous animals have got a different denture. They've got long canines to tear and catch the prey. They have molars, which actually have got spikes, but they do not touch tips. They actually reside on side. Why? Because they can tear the skin now. Carnivorous animal is there. When there's a blood also there, he will enjoy. He enjoys more blood than nothing coming. He's tearing and enjoying himself. And you come down to herbivorous animals. Herbivorous animals have got a different thing. It's got molars which are flatter. It doesn't have canine. So similarly, you come down to frugivorous animals, the fruitivorous animals, what we call as. The fruitivorous people are the people who have a similar type of a denture, quite like similar to the mankind. Right? And they are omnivorous animals also, like bear, who actually have got canines as well as the grown-up molars. So they can even eat grass and other things. At the same time, they can eat meat also, which is there. So your denture tells you what is the thing you got to have. And mankind's denture is equivalent to a frugivorous animal. It's aligned to that. Now let's see the digestive system. The carnivorous animals which are there, they have the length of the digestive system is around 10 to 15 times longer. 10 to 15 times longer. And the length is judged from the mouth to the anus. So that's a length which is considered. So it's 10 to 15 times this length is the digestive system of a carnivorous animal. And the carnivorous animal has got a cylindrical long stomach. It'll be cylindrical and long, right? Because what he's eating to digest that, it is a different digestive system which is required. Herbivorous animal has got 20 to 28 times the length of the body of the animal. That is the length of the digestive system. And his abdomen is broad and bloated up. Because that's the type of digestive system required for what it eats. A fruitivorous animal, his abdomen is around 10 to 12 feet long, which is akin to the mankind, because our thing is also 10 to 12 feet long, which comes in. And that is the food which is required to digest is fruits, nuts, vegetables, and other things which comes in. That is this digestive system is actually tuned to digest that type of food. So if you see all the things, the digestive system, the denture, what is there, the thought process, all dictate towards a particular type of food. So don't say, I enjoy this, I enjoy that. You actually enjoy if you come into the form of these three things. And if you do not follow this, if you fool your senses, go to the fourth rule of the nature, what you're doing is you are putting something which your digestive system cannot absorb and you're putting it into it. And because it can't digest, what happens? The remnants keep remaining. And the remnants can't get secreted out. It gets settled into the crevices of the tissues. And when it gets settled into crevices of tissues, it starts forming disease, cancer, dementia, Alzheimer's and various other things. These are all nothing but offshoots of not eating rightful food, which is there. So my suggested way, one little suggested way of food, which I suggest is, have food, you must give 12 hours of a gap between your dinner to your breakfast. That's number one. Why? Because your body requires that type of a time to heal whatever has gone wrong in your body. Second is cook food twice. Instead of lunch, breakfast, dinner, try and bring it into 2 meals a day. Because you must eat only when you're hungry. And if you really go by it, you do not feel hungry. If you have had your breakfast, you do not feel hungry at the time of lunch. But because it is so set and sacrosanct in the body that we say lunchtime ho gaya khana hai, baith jate hain table khane ke liye. And same goes for the dinner. You actually will realize that your body requires food only twice a day. And when you start feeling pangs, then only go and have food. Never have food. Forget about this lunch, dinner, breakfast and all. Eat when you're hungry. Why? Because once the food is digested completely, then the body says, okay, I want more food and starts asking for it. Once your body is not asking, you put it down, what is happening? Your food has come from stomach into your intestine. So all the energies are being utilized into intestine. Your epigenome is working with your cells in your intestine. It is telling us to do this. The moment you put in more food on the top, it says, oh, I got to start working here. It withdraws some energy from there and gets it to the stomach. And when it withdraws certain energy to the thing, the complete functioning in the intestine doesn't happen. And that doesn't happen because the digestion of the food doesn't happen. Even the food which comes to the stomach doesn't get digested fully because not the full energy is in. And that is how obesity, your problems of disease like these, where we've spoken of diabetes, hypertension, and other things, they all start germinating the thing. So have 2 meals a day, give 12 hours a break from dinner to breakfast, and focus on quality of food and not calories. All this modern day thoughts of calories and so much of vitamins and other things, forget about it. These are all bunkum. 100 calories you may get from broccoli and 100 calories you may get from a cheesecake. Both are far more different. It's not calories. It is what quality of food you have had, right? Drinking liquid along with the meals actually causes obesity. So this is something which one must be refrained from. 10 minutes of sun bath is very essential every day for your health upkeep. Overindulgence in sex depletes body flow, body energy which is there. And that's a very important aspect of the body which we have to keep in mind. And life can be prolonged. Even your age can be delayed if you just get down and immerse yourself into the power of God. When you immerse yourself into the power of God, what you're doing, you're vibrating higher. When you vibrate higher, your epigenome works right. When your epigenome works right, the pranic energy is flowing right. When your pranic energy is flowing right, you are disease-free, and not only disease-free, you even freeze your life movement further. You remain at 40, you don't grow to be an 80 or 90, which is there. And that is what the greatness of the thing is. After having seen food, yeah, I must quote this picture of Thomas Edison, which is there. It just came to mind. The modern people or the scientists who are there, who are they've all picked up these thoughts, and they're also talking the same. They say the doctors of future will no longer treat human beings or through drugs. He says, but it will be through cure or prevent disease from nutrition. That is from the rightful food only. They'll be able to treat the guy instead of giving drugs and medicines to you. That is what Thomas Edison, who's actually one of the renowned guys, has mentioned this, that they're already working on these aspects. And the third and the last thing which comes in is the lifestyle. The lifestyle, everyone knows what lifestyle, so I'll not dwell on that particular thing. I'll just give you a little suggestion of how to bring in a different lifestyle. And my suggestion is a 20-20 formula, what I call a 20-20 formula. And this 20-20 formula is, in the morning, try and get up as early as possible. Whatever time is comfortable, you get up. When you get up, devote 20 minutes to exercise. And when you do exercise, dopamine is what actually gets secreted within your body. After having done that, sit down minimum for 20 minutes into meditation or talking to yourself. Just talk to yourself, which is there. And when you talk to yourself, serotonin, dopamine, everything gets secreted out. And third is, once you finish your meditation, sit down and read a book for 20 minutes. When you read a book, and particularly a book which has got knowledge, not a fiction book or something, which has got knowledge, it balances your left and right side of the brain. And when it balances left and right side of the brain, alpha waves get secreted. And alpha waves are nothing but sattvic waves. Sattvic. The sattvic energy gets secreted in your brains, and you are there. And you are absolutely on top of the world. If you start this day with all 4 hormones secreted within you, your alpha waves strong, there is no reason for you to have any disease. There's no reason for you to feel let down. There's no reason for success not coming in your way. Second is, what I suggest is freedom from distraction. And that is something which is a common thing today, and particularly in the younger lot, is mobiles. You got to get out of this. This mobile is causing not only physical damage, it's actually causing a lot of mental damage. And this will not realize, we'll realize as the generation which actually has started now, we are a generation older. The next generation which is coming, when they reach up our age around 50, 60 years, you'll see such, unbelievable things happening to them because of all these particular things. So we must have this distraction out and try and have fixed times. Okay, I'll use this. And particularly at night before departing, you say after 7, I will not touch my phone, and leave that off. And only in the morning when I get up, so 12 hours of food break, give 14 hours of mobile break to yourself. That's what the thing is. And third, what I call is habit installation protocol. This actually is not an easy thing. Like we all talk, I've spoken, even for me to make it into a habit, it didn't happen over a day. And you say, oh, I heard it, it's very good, I must follow this. It doesn't really happen. It takes a good amount of time. And my analysis says it takes minimum 66 days to make a habit part of you. It takes around 22 days to destroy what is there wrong within you. And it takes 22 days to install what you're trying to do. And it is the last 22 days which actually starts integrating. When you say, I want to change, I will change, don't get satisfied, oh, I've done it for 1 day, 2 days, or week, and they say, it'll wither off. You say, I will continue doing this for at minimum 66 days. If you do it for 66 days, then you can say, yes, now this has become part and parcel of me, and now I'm a changed person. So when I mention about the thought process to change, get away from theoretical metaphysics to practical metaphysics. Now, this is what exactly is. Habit installation protocol will take a lot of time. And that is what we need to do that. Before we depart, I'll do a little good health test with you all, right? I will give out certain things and you have to work out on yourself, yes, no, and see where you stand. What is your health state, right? First thing is that timely excretion. When you get up in the morning, when you clear your bowel, how does it happen? Does it happen on its own that you go in and you clear off immediately and you're out? Or you say, no, I need a cup of tea. I need need to smoke there. I need a book, and you sit down inside the thing and you say, oh, it's not clearing up to keep sitting down. What is the thing? If it is clearing your bowl right, good health. No excessive weight. Now, this is a known fact to everyone. That's a fact. If you just follow what we just spoke of, if you have the rightful food and have those little things, I can assure you with 2 meals a day, 12 hours of break in between, eating rightful calories at 2, there is no reason for you to put on weight. There's no reason for you to put on weight. Try this, I'm telling you. I've done this. I was reasonably obese. My weight had gone up to around 90. I've now come down way back, and I'm just following this particular regime which is there. I mean, my structure is like this. I always look the thing, but I can make out from my weight, it has come down. Skin is a third thing which actually shows how clear is your skin. If it has got blemishes, it's got, pimples and all, it's a reflection of what your body is. Your skin is a reflection of what your body is. So see your skin, how clean it is. Feel energetic throughout the day. Do you feel worked up, थोड़ा काम किया, थक गए, सोना है. Because your body, the pranic energy is flowing within you. There's no reason for you to feel. If you have worked, yes, while you think, you sit down for a while, rest, you again recoup and you get back. But if you feel, oh, I can't work, now I am done with, then there's something wrong. So how do you feel? And the next is strong sense of hunger. Have you ever got strong sense of hunger? Today मुझे बड़ी भूख लगी थी, मैंने खाया. ऐसा हुआ है या नहीं हुआ? अगर नहीं हुआ, not in good health. Next is no pain in the body. मेरे यहाँ दर्द हो रहा है, थोड़ा पेट दर्द हो गया. These are pains which come and go. They're not persist. So does these pains happen? Yes or no? Next is deep sleep. Do you sleep like a child at night or you keep waking up? That's another indicator of your thing. And last but not the least is the positive thought. So see how many pluses are there, how many minuses are there in you, or what are yes and what are no, and where you need to improve upon, and how to improve upon, as what we've already spoken across. If we do that, definitely there's no reason for us not to be healthy. There's no reason for us not to be happy. There's no reason for us not to grow and be successful. All these things clubbed together is what I call as leading a disease-free life. Thank you. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. I hope I made some sense. Thank you.
May I say something, Major General?
Please, ma'am.
I'm Vatsala. I normally am in Bangalore, but I'm now with the car traveling towards Bangalore. It was thank you for a very informative session. You have given me one or two resolutions which I need to make for the new year. So I think it's come at the right time. There was a nice takeaway that you said that the meaning that we give to an event decides their reaction. That's a very, very good point. And in my own case, the example that you said about the lorry and the car, two events, I reacted differently. One was right, one was wrong. The first was wrong and the second was right. So it resonates very well with me. And I have a request to make. I'm sure the others will agree. I think you do a lot of prayer because your the first prayer you started with was very intimate and very relevant for the group. So it was very touching. I like your prayer very much. So I must make a point to tell you that. I wish you will take a session on the power of prayer and faith.
Yes, ma'am, we can do that.
I guessed that you do a lot of prayer. Something tells me that you are into it. So it will be wonderful to hear you talk about that. Maybe one session you should do, especially on power of prayer and faith.
Thank you. I definitely will. You so rightly said, you know, I hope I'm okay.
Yes.
Yeah, you so rightly said this regarding the prayer which is there. I realized it as I grew up on. Like in my first session, I had spoken about my guru came calling at me. From there on, I've been into meditation for long. In the morning from 2:30, my day starts, and I go back to sleep at around 5:30 in the morning. After 5:30 or 6 o'clock again, I go back. And I'm telling you, I just sleep for 4.5 hours, and it has only made me healthier. Only made me healthier. And thank you so much for your comments which are there. And definitely we'll look into this. I definitely will work on it, ma'am.
Vatsala,
Yes, sir.
can I ask you something?
Yes, sir.
You just share, you know, we have experienced the power of sound to heal.
Yes.
Yes.
And you just share your experience of working with the sound healing for your pain from arthritis. Because everybody should know.
Yes. You want me to tell that now?
Yes, because it is so relevant, you know, it is what Major General has talked about, how to raise the frequency and vibration of your cell at the cellular level, and all the negative things they just disappear.
I'll be, it's a great privilege. I'm very happy to share. I've been suffering from rheumatoid arthritis, pain for a long time. It was brought on by severe stress in my personal life. I was a very healthy person. I was unable to control my reaction. Exactly what Major General Kundra said. It was brought on by myself. Maybe it was my karmic also, but my contribution to it is 100% to my illness. And I had heard about the sound healing for the first time from from our Guruji, Dr. Premji Nirmal. And he did a session. The impact was dramatic. I had been, after I had some surgery, when I was unable to have food. I didn't had poor appetite. It was affecting my mind. Because after the surgery and medication, I've been stopped. Right? And I was at a low point. I found it, and I have got deeply into our satsang. This Tuesday gathering had become a way of life with me. So prayer, meditation, everything had become very important to me. I was more committed. I found it difficult to get up in the morning. Pain was intense. And one day I really prayed to Mahavtar Babaji. I sometimes think, but that day especially. And next day, when we had the session, he mentioned Mahavtar Babaji and he said there is sound healing. I wrote to him. I said, Babaji is sending me a message that help is at hand. So I wrote him saying that I want enough freedom from pain to continue my sadhana. I am prepared to undergo whatever the karmic thing. He did the session. I felt fine. I could raise my arm. I could get up in the morning. My life was so different, so different. I ordered the sound healing pipes, and I've been doing it from what I was some months ago and what I am now. It's a big sea change. So I attend all your sound healing sessions as far as possible, and there is a palpable difference in my pain, a sense of well-being. My limbs feel lighter, and I'm not on any medication for no painkiller, no steroids, nothing. And I want to get some more vibes.
Thank you, Vatsala. I just wanted you to share because that made such a difference to your life.
But years ago, I was on the wheelchair to meet the doctor. Now I travel, I do so many things. It is grace of God, and the sound healing has been the means of bringing a lot of, and the timing, the fact that I prayed to Babaji, the day that he said it, then you started the sessions. Everything I feel I'm being taken care of.
Thank you, Vatsala.
There's one, Sudhir Sharma ji has asked one thing on the chat. You had mentioned that doctors say gallbladder stone can't be dissolved. Kidney stone can be dissolved by medicine and pass through urine. Yes, that's what the doctors say, but let me tell you that is not true. Even the science also says that it can be dissolved. There are various means of dissolving the thing. But what's the danger about that is, even when it gets dissolved, it remains in certain amount of proportion. And if that stone which comes and gets stuck somewhere, then it becomes a very criticality, because it not only affects the gallbladder, it affects the liver and everything else. And that's how it becomes very critical. So there, if you get onto YouTube, you'll find so many people sharing experience that they have been able to cleanse their gallbladder by various things. You know, someone says keep by vinegar and other things, just do those things. But most of the places people have tried and they've got stuck because the gallbladder did break, did dissolve, but somehow it got stuck in the pipeline, which is there. So my way was looking from point of view of pranic healing. I didn't do any of those medicines and others, but pranic healing, because like what Gaurji just brought out about sound healing, these things are very, very effective methods. Let me tell you, they are the ones which actually starts from here. They're nothing but your thought. from thought actually starts working, like what I just spoke of. You are actually changing the thought. When you're talking of pranas, when you say pranic energy, this prana to start working, what you're telling is your thought. And the thought is actually then directing the medulla oblongata. And the medulla oblongata is pulling down the pranas. And those 5 pranas which I told you, the respective prana is activated and the prana starts working, and it does. And I was doing it from pranic healing. But again, it takes time when all these things happen. But I came under pressure from my family. So that's how I went in for an operation. Had I not got through, I would have been through. Or if I made a mistake, I should have got another MRI before going in for operation. Had I gotten an MRI, probably then I would have not gone in for operation. So, but that's exactly what I'm trying to share my experience, that these things are very effective, very effective. Sound therapy, let me tell you, is amazing. And it's nothing exactly what I spoke of. All these sound therapies are increasing the vibrations. So there are certain things they can focus those vibrations onto certain defective cells and increase the frequency of the cells. And when the frequency of the cell increases, it's what it's doing. It's actually letting the pranic energy flow into the cells. The 1.4 volt, which is reduced down to zero point 0.4 volts, is getting increased to 1.4. And the moment that energy gets full 1.4 volts, the cell starts working right and you become fine.
I can,
Thank you, sir.
I can, and Sudhir Sharma ji, I can share something.
Ji sir,
What
ji sir.
General Saab has said, just to supplement that. You see, the doctors believe that the processes are due to aging which have happened in the body, they cannot be reversed. Like I started suffering from prostate about 10 years ago. And the doctor told me it's natural, you are 60 now.
Yeah.
So prostate to hoga hi. And then it started worsening. And it has come to a point where each time passing urine was an effort. And over the last 1 year or so, or the last 6 months maybe, the process has got reversed. The urine flow has become very, very natural. So, how does it happen? It happens because body is not just matter. The doctors have this difficulty because they are treating body as matter. So if something has happened in the matter, they say that okay, some medication, something to dissolve, something to change has to be given. They are still thinking of treating it at the level of the matter. And surgery comes in, of course, surgery comes in very handy when removal of matter is concerned. But what happens is that body has, every cell has its intelligence. Every single cell in the body is performing nearly 3 lakh functions. Now, where does that intelligence come from? God has given this divine intelligence to our body system that these 50 trillion cells or 70 trillion cells in the body, they are working in tandem with each other and there is no shutdown. It is a system that does not shut down. It works for maybe 60 years, 70 years, till it finally closes down. But there is no temporary shutdown. But you take any furnace in a factory, any equipment, anywhere, there are so many things that have to be shut down and repaired. But no apparent repair happens, it carries on. So there is this tremendous intelligence. So if we harness that intelligence, then the body knows how to heal itself. People who are having, say, a blockage in the heart, if the condition is not very critical, if that person is made to do yoga, he is put into an environment where there is peace, he is not under stress, he is given good diet, which is healthy pranic diet, full of energy, not that diet which sort of sucks away all the prana from the body. Then what happens? Doctors have found that the plaque which has been noticed in the arteries, it disappears on its own. So how does it disappear? because the body has this intelligence, it can take care of itself. But it must be given that environment. Why this discrepancy has come? It is because we have taken away the natural environment. So if the natural environment is given, the body will be ready to sort of heal itself. That is how it works. To a person who is just looking at the body from the level of matter or from the point of view of matter, for him it is a miracle. But it is not a miracle. It is just the normal function of the body. Then how do things work? We are never talking to our bodies. When something goes wrong, we say, oh my God, my leg is hurting me, my head is aching, I am having this pain, I have got cervical spondylitis. But why has it happened? Because our relationship with the body has been bad. We have given the body, we have loaded the body with all kinds of undesirables. Now it has carried on for some time, and there comes a point of time when it starts giving up. And these pains and aches and diseases are the symptoms. This is what is happening. So we must improve our relationship with the body. So just simply saying, what General Saab made a very, very good point, that he had a difficult relationship. There was a lot of bad blood. And he recognized that, and he started doing the forgiveness practice. So are we ready to clean our slate? Do we really wish to clean the slate? Are we ready to give up some of our long-held belief systems, negative belief systems? We use our negative belief systems as our defense. We take pride in those belief systems. But fact of the matter is, our own belief systems are the chains that are holding us back from being free. So if we are ready to work with ourselves and change that belief system, get into a regular practice of forgiveness, remember all those people consciously with whom we have had a difficulty. If we have done something wrong in our arrogance, we seek forgiveness. If they have done something wrong to us, we just forgive them and let them be free. Bless them. You be happy. Then body will heal. Because that additional burden, that memory which is being carried in the cells, that will be released. And another point which, this particular talk is very important for each one of us. A great master once told me, we grew up on all this spiritual garbage. The body is nothing. What is there in the body? Because we have read some books, we think like that. But he told me, he said, this body will become enlightened. You will get enlightenment only through this body. The freedom will come only through this body. So how can you ignore the body? And for that you have to live. The other point he made, that if you don't live, you die soon. And you do not resolve your relationships, then what happens? The journey continues. So this drama will carry on. So if somebody who wants to end the drama here and now, he will have to repair his relationship with the body and his relationship with everyone on the outside, in the outside world. And then he will have to realize that belief systems are always binding. There is no belief system that is good. Even good is bad. What seems good belief system today, if it becomes binding on you, then it will become a bad belief system, and you will have to learn some harsh lessons to get out of it. Because spirituality means total freedom. Freedom comes, you have to work upon yourself and open the mind expand the horizons. That's the kind of thing that needs to be done. Sorry, General Sir, I am taking some time,
Oh no, please, please. It's so
but
nice.
you have brought some very fine points, and I can just relate to them. The belief system. My parents died very early. One of my brothers died when he was 67, the eldest brother. So this was ingrained inside me that I don't have to live long. Now, how it works? So when I retired and I was just planning for my financial things, then I just jokingly I said, but I really meant it, that I'm not going to live beyond 66, 67. So why do I have to plan? And believe me, by the time I was 65, my body started crumbling. Because the belief system that I don't have to live long or I will not live long, that started working. It has been a hard work for me to get out of that belief system. And why did I have to get out of that belief system? Because I learnt my lesson that unless each one of us has a mission in life, unless we fulfill that mission, liberation will not happen. Now, how do you fulfill your mission? You have to live. You have to live sufficiently long to fulfill your mission. So if there are people who are not having any mission, what can be the mission? Do something for others. Most people have this beggar mentality that how can I do something? I am so small. But they forget God has chosen to live inside them as them. So somebody in whose house, in whose body God's abode is there, how can that fellow be small? So once a person recognizes his true nature, then automatically this expansion comes. Abundance comes. What is abundance? Abundance is not so much about money. There are many people who have a lot of money, a lot of resources, a lot of riches, but their hearts are closed. So there has to be an opening of the heart and everybody has to go out and serve. But how do we serve? So all the time it is not necessary that you have to have great riches, you have to be part of some big initiative of Rotary Club or Lions Club or some big NGO you should run. You can just work with ordinary people. Now what happens is that General Saab said that people have come to this group and there have been more people or joined or people are having some advantage out of it. Are you able to share that advantage with other people? Have you the confidence to just go out and say that, oh, I am part of this particular initiative and it has done something good to my life? Are you willing to share what transformation has happened? Because whenever in our forum we ask people to share their transformation, people don't come forward. Why? Because that thought has never been given. So if the thought is given, if that awareness is generated, what is my gift? What is it that I can do? What is it that I can share? That will just change your vibrational frequency. When you come to a satsang like this, your vibrational frequency goes up. But you start sharing, even without coming to this satsang, your vibrational frequency will be very high. So these are the practical tips. We don't have to do something really great. God alone knows how Hema had this idea that we should have an online program. I was very resistant to it. I can never thank her enough for this. So this is how it was. There was something working, that God's energy was working through her and it just wanted some expansion. And when there is expansion, there is growth. When there is expansion, the energy goes high. You are vibrating at a higher level. So we must always look at what is our vibrational frequency. And for that, the simple thing is get out all those WhatsApp groups where the political messages are being shared. Because once you get out, a lot of garbage is taken out. This is a very practical tip. Or even if you are there, I have got out of some groups that people add me again and again. So I don't see those messages at all, because there is no time. And if the moment you look at some people, shouting or discussing a political point and point scoring, your frequency immediately goes down. So be aware. We are all sentient beings. We know who we are, what we are doing. So you just make a list of those things. What increases your energy? So it is perhaps better to watch a Kapil Sharma show than to enter into a political debate. Because you are laughing.
Yes, sir. Very correct.
It is
Very
senseless,
correct.
but it just perks you up. It's
Most
fine.
of the times I see the comedy shows and sleep to bed. And my
Just
daughter
now,
says,
people laughed when I said
"What
Kapil
are you
Sharma.
doing?"
See, the energy went up. Did you notice?
yes,
And when you laugh, one great thing happens, your mind stops. If you have a great laugh, then after the laugh, you notice, you pay attention, you don't breathe for some time. Because so much of pranic energy has been released in the body that the need to breathe is not there. So we have to really look at what we are doing. And this is and why do we need to live? Because we need to work out our karma and we need to be free. Otherwise the drama will go on. If you are interested in the drama, good enough. Then you can just carry on.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Godsav, can I add something?
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead. I'm sorry I took a lot of time, but I was just, there was so much in it for me that I wanted to speak.
I think she dropped off, I think. No, ma'am is here. Ma'am, can you unmute
When we
yourself?
share our experiences, I've unmuted myself.
Okay.
Have I?
Yes,
Can you hear
ma'am.
me?
Can you start your video, ma'am? I can pin you.
Oh, why do you want to? Why
Okay.
do you want to see my video? Why do you want to see my video? It's awful. I'm sitting in the razai and things.
It's okay. It's perfectly fine.
When we share a satsang or experiences, when we share, it sinks into our system. Whatever we've understood, whatever we heard, sinks into our system. Rather than just we may not forget it immediately after we finish the course. So that's very important to share our experiences or to share the satsang.
You are muted.
She's muted.
I had unmuted. The people, go out, they invite people to a program. But if you really want to serve, then there is a discipline to it. When you invite others to a program, just don't, let it be a ringside show that people come and just be there and go away. When you invite people to the program, you must follow it up with them. So on the day of the program, you just be on the lookout who has come, has these people come and join. Then follow it up with them. They may have questions. Everybody is not used to coming to a spiritual program of this nature. People like to go to programs which belong to certain groups or other things where very many predictable things are being said. Here it is totally unpredictable because we are open to anybody who is willing to come and share and teach. So they may have questions, you might answer them. They may seek some explanation which must be given. And then if they feel that, okay, we don't have to be here or anywhere, it's fine. You have done your job. Because when you really approach a person from the space of love, that person feels supported. I can share my own experience of a satsang, our Guru's program, which we are doing in Jai Hind College. And one of the jobs I had was, after the program, go out, mingle with the crowd when people are leaving and ask them their feedback. So there was one very old person. I asked him कि आपको कैसा लगता है कि program हमारा क्या होता है? So he gave me an answer which I will never forget. He said, ये तुम लोग क्या बातें करते हो, सिद्धि योग, ये अंतरात्मा, ये सब मुझको कुछ समझ में नहीं आता है. लेकिन मेरी उम्र 76 साल की है और मैं बोरीवली में अपने बेटे और बहू के साथ रहता हूँ. उनके बच्चे बड़े हैं. सब लोग इतने बिजी हैं, किसी के पास मेरे से बात करने के लिए टाइम नहीं है. तो किसी ने बताया इधर कुछ सत्संग है, मैं आने लगा. लेकिन जैसे ही मैं आता हूँ, एक कोई लड़की दौड़ते हुए आएगी, वो मेरा हाथ पकड़ करके मुझे किसी कुर्सी पर बिठा देगी, क्योंकि हॉल नहीं खुला है. जब हॉल खुलता है तो वो मदद करेगी, टॉर्च लेकर जाती है, मुझे बिठा देती है. बाहर जब समाप्त होता है तो आकर हाथ पकड़ कर ले आती है बाहर कि आप कुर्सी पर बैठ के अपने जूते बदल लीजिए. He said, I come here only to enjoy this love. So when we are going out in the world, doing anything, if there is love, we are definitely going to touch many lives. And there is nobody in this world who can say, I cannot give love. You don't have to spend anything from your pocket. Simple gestures. Sometimes even words are not needed to convey love. Just a glance, the way you look at others, the way you smile at them, that makes a lot of difference. Make this as your seva, and your relationships will improve. This universe is that way very nice. Whatever little we give, we get manifold. So this intention of Hema that we must give something. What has it done to us? There is this immense grace. So many wonderful people coming together in an atmosphere of love. It is such a blessing. So it is amazing. But if we just give out this kind of consideration, make that effort to talk to people and share our lives with them, that is good enough. That will be great service. And when we share, as Mrs. Asha Mehra said, when we share something, we learn. Each time we share, we are perfecting our own understanding. So it is the process to become a jnani. A yogi can become yoga bhrashta. In Gita, the Lord has used the term yoga bhrashta. That means a yogi can come down the ladder. He can miss it. But there is never this word used, jnana bhrashta. A jnani is never falls from that space. And as General Sahib pointed out, that Swami Yukteswar Guru has said that a person who is enlightened, he becomes free of all disease. And biggest disease that we have is ignorance. So it is something that is being given to us on a platter. This life is a great gift, and we can make it a greater gift for ourselves and for others, just by doing something, some small things. So I thought I may have hijacked General Saab's talk, but it struck so many things inside me that I felt like I had to speak. So thank you for listening to me. And if there are any more questions.
Sir, one small point. One small point right here.
Yes.
Earlier, you guys, to get so much knowledge, one had to do penance for thousands of years in the cold, standing on a foot. In Kali-yuga, the fact that we mentioned that there is a God, we get so much of grace.
Yes. Because it is Kali Yuga, no? So the gods have made it easier.
So we are at the
Okay, I think that's last. We have missed her.
Yes, Rashmi ji. We can close the session. Any more questions? Okay. You have to unmute yourself, Rashmi ji.
समय तो रुक जा, ठहर जा, अपनी तो इल्तिजा थी यही, वो न ठहरा था न ठहरेगा, उसकी तो रजा थी यही। हम फिर मिले, हम फिर सुने, हम फिर सीखे आपसे, अब बस एक और एक दुआ है यही। तो आपको और गॉड सर को सुनने के बाद मैं इसके अलावा और कुछ कहने के लायक हूँ नहीं। So lastly, on behalf of Shri Brahm Prakash Gaur ji, Hema ji, and the entire team of Tuesday Gathering, I extend my hearty thanks and gratitude to you, Major General Rajesh
Thank you,
Kundra
sir.
ji. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. And
Thank
big
you.
thank you to all of you.
Thank you.